Yes, I'm ready. Are you ready, Kurt?
Good.
So,
Kurt, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We'll call the January 20th City Commission meeting to order. And the first thing on the agenda is to approve the agenda. The City Commission reserves the right to amend, supplement, or reorder the agenda during the meeting. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Vice Mayor Courtney, second by Commissioner Dever. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Or nay? Didn't hear any nays. Okay, 5-0. Okay, we have a recognition tonight, and that is to recognize our own City of Lawrence for receiving a project award from the American Council of Engineering Companies of Kansas in the City Water Improvement category for the Wakarusa Drive project. And I believe Melissa, oh, there she is going to kick us off and tell us a little bit about this.
Well, we're very excited. Sorry, I'm going to bring this up. Very excited to be able to share this with the commission. Every year there is the group of engineers that you mentioned that pick out awards in different size categories for size of cities. And this year we were lucky enough, and Craig was able to be there, to receive at our city managers conference down in Emporia, Kansas, this award for that Wakarusa improvement project. And I think anybody that's been down along there and seen the work, clearly this was a sector related to the water portion of the project, but it's a much needed improvement and has really positive outcomes. So just very happy for all of you.
Well, excellent. Well, there's nothing for me to read, but we want to thank you, and thank you for bringing it forward, and thank you for all the great work from our city folks.
And I will transfer that back to all of our staff that worked on the project. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll give them a round of applause. Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion and approved by one motion. Members of the governing body may remove items for separate discussion if desired. Members of the public may remove items identified as quasi-judicial for separate discussion if desired. Members of the public will be limited to 3 minutes for comments. Is there any item that a member of the commission would like to pull?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, seeing none, there's no quasi-judicial matters, so I'd look for a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
second.
Second. Motion by Vice Mayor Courtney, second by Commissioner Sellers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. That brings us to our work session. That's to receive an update on the World Cup base camp. And Brandon, I think you're kicking it off. It looks like we have a great crew here to give us some presentation.
We sure do. We brought the A team tonight, and we have several others online as well. Ruth, feel free to go ahead. I'll be brief in my introductory comments. And actually, the bulk of the presentation will be delivered by Ruth DeWitt from Explore Lawrence. She's a member of our Unified Command group, and John Stepetich from Douglas County Emergency Management. He's a member of our planning section. So I'm already using trade language, I guess. We have been working actually under the incident command system, and John can talk a little bit about that and what that means and how we work in that form. Let's see, we've been going for more than a year. I think we've actually spanned, John said, 3 calendar years of this work so far. But the incident command system would be familiar to people when they think back to how our community responded and got organized around the pandemic. We brought some of our key kind of public anchor institutions together to provide logistics, planning, operational support, clear up to executive level guidance and policy level guidance, and that served our community very well through the pandemic. And we decided this is, yet another unprecedented event that's going to require a lot from us as a community. And so let's try to build off of that model that we used during COVID and see if we can set our community up to have great success during this unprecedented event of the World Cup. So we've been working diligently. We have several branches, and we'll talk about those. And we'll talk about a lot of the planning initiatives that are in place within each of those branches around various topics. I will say we have a meeting every other Friday morning, and that is our Incident Command System meeting. That meeting, the attendance sometimes is north of 50 people. So we have a lot of people in the community that are very plugged in, and then even more people who are contributing in volunteer ways just because they have an interest or they have a special professional skill set that might contribute positively to some sort of kind of niche preparation. And so we haven't had to do much volunteering. We've had a lot of volunteers show up, and I think that really speaks volumes to our community, to the excitement people feel about this event, and their willingness to really step in and contribute. So with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Ruth and then John, and then we do have many members of our organization here, and I can help facilitate questions and answers to make sure we have the branch leadership responding to your questions.
Excellent.
Thanks, Brandon. That was a great summary. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Ruth DeWitt. I'm the Community Relations Director at Explore Lawrence, and I'm so excited to share with you tonight the work that Brandon has set up that we can talk about how we've been preparing for the World Cup. My responsibility here tonight is to kind of give you an overview and a scope of the event that we're talking about. I think we all sort of realize it's unprecedented, but I want to give a little bit of detail on that. The 2026 World Cup will be the largest World Cup ever hosted, with 48 countries, up from 32 4 years ago. There will be 104 matches with 3 days, about an average of 3 days in between matches, and I'll get back to that. The projected regional impact for Kansas City, $650 million, and that's in direct impact. What that means is I go to a restaurant, I spend money. I go to a t-shirt store, I buy a t-shirt, all of that money goes into the economy. It does not include sort of indirect, payroll taxes, hotel taxes, other things that actually come into the region. We're expecting about 650,000 visitors to KC. The current population of Kansas City is 500,000, so this is a huge influx. Now, they won't all be here at the same time, but it kind of gives you an idea. In the hospitality sector, we have sort of an in-market ratio that we talk about. So the Super Bowl ratio of visitors to in-market ticket holders is about 1 to 5. So I have a ticket to the Super Bowl. I bring my friends with me. 4 of them are going just to sort of get the vibes. I'm going to the game. For the World Cup, that is 1 in 20. So we are talking about 4 times a Super Bowl, and we're doing it 6 times over in Kansas City. We have been put on alert. They took Kansas City. They drew a 2.5-hour radius around Kansas City to expect compression in hotels. We obviously don't have anything that we can measure that has happened before for this, but we have one tiny little peek of a window of a data point, and that's when Taylor Swift played at Arrowhead Stadium a few years ago, and our hotels experienced, she played for 2 nights, a 91 and a 93% occupancy. So we do know that big events in Arrowhead drive traffic out to us. I also want to share that Arrowhead is not going to look like what you think it looks like now. It's not even going to be named what it is named now. Arrowhead Stadium will be renamed Kansas City Stadium for the tournament, the extent of the tournament. We think of Arrowhead as a place where we go and tailgate, and we don't have to have a ticket to go to the match. In this case, it will look very different. It will have a surrounding security perimeter of an international proportion. And then there will be international press, another perimeter of international press around it. So it will be, if you have parking, it's extremely limited, and most people will probably be ticketed, screened, and brought in on a bus. We're very attractive to the World Cup as a site because, as you can see in the host cities, including the 3 countries that are joining with us to host this event, we are pretty much dead in the middle. That is great for us for 2 reasons. Fans who might not understand the scope of America and think that if they stay in the middle of the country, they can go see the Golden Gate Bridge on a weekend, or certainly the teams. FIFA is extremely particular and limiting in the amount a team likes to travel and time zone travel. And so with us being centrally located, we are only 2 hours from the farthest time zone. Also, I'll call your attention to the bottom corner. All but 4 cities within this tournament are within a 3.5-hour charter flight, which is a metric that they like to keep. So you probably heard a lot about us being chosen as a base camp site, and I want to just go over a little bit about what that means. Currently, the FIFA Federation issued a brochure in June of 2024. There were 3 Kansas City sites for teams to base camp. What that means is a team will be, it's their home away from home for the duration of the group stage as a minimum. Every team is guaranteed to be here for 3 matches through the group stage. Compass Mineral Points, the KC Current Facility, and Rock Chalk Park. You can see in my slides that they're paired with those various hotels. They will be here. They come with 26 players, and then they come with their training staff, their coaches, their dietitians, their exercise staff. So they come with a large group. They're looking for a hotel of about 100 rooms that they would buy out, and that's who they would bring with them as a unit. They also bring some friends, some family, and other country people who are interested in sort of being the super fans. We've been told we can expect an influx of about 15,000 people if we are chosen as a base camp. I want to make a note that they are not necessarily playing at Arrowhead Stadium. So it's a little bit of a hint who's playing at Arrowhead Stadium, but a team could be assigned to a base camp in, let's say, Chattanooga and play their group stage matches in Arrowhead Stadium. So it's not necessarily correlated between who's going to be here. So the timeline, to Brandon's point, we've been doing this for quite a while, and December 5th seemed so far away when I first started giving these presentations, but it has come and gone. So that was a big marker on the wall. December 5th was the draw day, and we did get to see that was when the teams were put in the tournament for real. So we saw what groups they were in, and then the following day, the Federation issued the schedule of where people were going to be playing. After December 6th, that ramped up team visits. We did have team visits here over the summer, but that ramped up a couple-week period of team visits to come and see us because they knew they were going to be kind of in the locale. So we've had some team visits in that time. As of 2 Fridays ago, they submitted their top 5 ranks of where they want to be to FIFA, and then FIFA puts that all in the mix, and then they come out and sort of tell these teams where they're going to be. You might have seen there are a couple teams like Germany who announced that they're going to be in North Carolina base camping. They weren't supposed to do that. There are some teams that are high enough ranked that they kind of, do what they want. So anyway, the teams that are following the rules should find out by January 31st where they are going to be. So we are all on pins and needles. I know there's a lot of rumors going around, but we do not currently know what we're looking at for a team base camp. This is the match groups that were drawn on December 5th. I have highlighted groups E, F, and J because those are the groups that will come through or Kansas City Stadium. I should get myself in the habit of doing that. So anyway, these group matches are coming through. Group J actually has 2 matches, so they start off the games in Kansas City, and then E, F play, and then Group J plays another game. This is the schedule that I can't read, but hopefully it's in your packet. And you can see that Kansas City has the 4 matches in the group stage. One other thing I'd like to say about Kansas City is that when they put in this bid, so many months and years ago, they never, ever thought that they would draw a round of 32, let alone a quarterfinal match. So those are huge, huge wins for Kansas City. And this is the Kansas City schedule that is published as of now. So you can see that we have some pretty big teams that are coming through. I want to highlight just a couple things on this schedule. First of all, the round of 32 on July 3rd. You'll see that it's the winner of Group K versus the 3rd place of Group D, E, I, J, and L. The U.S. men's team plays in Group D. So if they are in 3rd place, there is an outside chance that on July 3rd in Kansas City Stadium, the U.S. men's team might be playing here. That's about as close as they can get. The other thing I'd like to point out is with the quarterfinals. So the June 27th is sort of the end of the group stage. If we have somebody here who has not advanced, they will leave. Just by proximity of where we are and that there is a quarterfinal in Kansas City, as you look at the teams that have advanced to the quarterfinal, they're the big ones. And it is entirely likely that we will see fans from, the big teams as they advance, and they're winning. So they might not have been here to begin with, but they might be visiting us later on. So all that to say, we're kind of in this for the long haul. This was announced by the KC 2026 transportation arm. It is the Connect Transportation Master Plan. And as you can see, way, way, way down a very long line to the bottom left-hand corner of that picture, Lawrence, Kansas is on the map. Felice is here. She has done all this work for our city transportation. And I cannot say enough what a huge win this is for Lawrence, Kansas. So what this means is we will have a dedicated bus that is running not just on match days, but all days of the tournament from June 11th through July 13th, so not all the way up until the final. A service they're predicting every 30 minutes coming in and out of Kansas City. It's a huge win for us. It will bring people, and as I mentioned at the beginning, there are 3 days between matches, so we have a whole lot of people who are looking for things to do, day trips, regional trips, and Explore Lawrence is going to be working to make sure that those people see Lawrence, Kansas as a destination to come out for the day. You'll also see with these 2 yellow connecting dots that you can go into FanFest, and then we have express service to the airport. And on match days, that dot out to the right-hand side is Kansas City Stadium. So these are a few demographics about who is coming as best as we can tell. I want to point out that the average stay is a little under 10 days. Average matches attended are 2.3. So you can see that these are people with time on their hands who are looking for things to do, and Lawrence is happy to oblige that situation. I want the other sort of thing of note is that the international visitors is around 54%. That's a huge population, of course, but that also means that there's a very large population of domestic travelers who are coming, and those are the people who we want to target to come back. So someone who comes from, very far away might not be coming back, but this soccer and the culture of bringing people here domestically, we want them to return. The other thing that's happening is that international people might be looking for places to have satellite offices. The economic development opportunity is huge, and we want people to know that Lawrence is open for business. One other thing I'd point out on this is that we look and see 68% have a credit or debit card. Great. That means 32% do not. So part of our economic development branch is working on how we work in a cash economy or an app economy. We have been looking at training restaurants, looking to make sure that security is beefed up if our establishments have a lot of cash on hand, and how to teach frontline workers to handle cash transactions. That is all I had for you for this. I am going to turn it over to John, but before I sit down, I just want to give a shout out to all the people here who have been working so tirelessly on this. We really are all volunteers, and when I get somebody to agree to do something, I say that this is the most intense all other duties as assigned club that you'll ever join. And we are working just diligently, as Brandon said, every 2 weeks and beyond to make sure that Lawrence is on the map and that you can be proud of the work that we are doing to try and make sure that when people come here, they experience Lawrence's radical hospitality, they are safe, and that they have a great time. So I just want to say that before I sit down. Thank you so much.
Ruth, before you sit down, do you want to say something about the logo? And
Oh, sure. Thank you, Mayor. Our branding kit is, you can see that we have this Lawrence 2026 logo that we are using. As you can probably guess, there are a whole lot of restrictions around FIFA and World Cup and markings that we can and can't use. So anyway, we were very, very lucky to have the KU marketing team help us with a logo that stands out and represents both, KU in terms of the color story, and also calls back to the Kansas City 2026 colors as well. So we feel like we fit in while standing out, which seems like a very Lawrence-y thing to do.
And as I think you said the other day, it is catchier than Incident Command.
Yes, exactly. I got a whole lot of razzing for being called the Lawrence Incident Command from the Kansas City 2026 group. So I was really happy to get to show them this one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Again, as we said, my name is John Stepich. I'm the Deputy Emergency Management Director for Douglas County. Ruth got to talk about a lot of the fun stuff. I get to talk about some of the nuts and bolts, things that we're doing here. So, like we said, Lawrence Douglas County World Cup Unified Command is kind of a mouthful, which is why we rebranded a little bit as Lawrence 2026. But we are still using the Unified Command Incident Command structure. Throughout this organization chart, there are representatives from the three big entities being the City of Lawrence, Douglas County, and the University of Kansas, as well as others, Explore Lawrence, the Chamber of Commerce, and many, many other organizations from the community plugged in a lot of different places in here. So we are ultimately led by a steering committee that helps guide policy decisions, larger decisions like that when we need that sort of guidance, which is the administrators of the university, the city, and the county. And the chamber, and then our unified command, who are kind of more in the weeds of overseeing the entire structure, overseeing the entire organization, and making sure that the wheels keep turning, that we're continually working on things, we're continuing to make progress. Moving down the chart a little bit, we have our Joint Information Center, which includes the public information officers from many organizations, supported by the regularly occurring Douglas County Public Information Officers Group that meets monthly. This group has helped develop the Lawrence 2026 website, in addition with others in the organization, and have been fielding a lot of the questions and organizing things like media interviews and public information that's going out from our organization. We're in constant contact with Kansas Athletics and the Oriad Hotel, as they will be the hosts of any team that would be here in Lawrence, and so we have them as liaison officers. And a focus on even equity and inclusion led by our health department and those at KU, focusing on our local community and making sure that the World Cup has positive impacts on those that are in Lawrence and those that are coming to Lawrence. I'll get to the operations section in a minute. The planning section, which is where Douglas County Emergency Management fits in, we maintain the plans, we facilitate the meetings, make sure we have documentation of what we've been working on and where we're heading. The logistics section right now is mainly focused on helping keep track of the resources that we have locally and making sure that we're sharing resources and tracking any training opportunities, exercises to make sure that we're prepared to respond to any emergencies that may come up. And our administration and finance section, tracking any of our cost estimates, any possible income we may be having, and tracking actual expenditures so we know economically what this event is doing to our local community. The operations section, these are, we would say, the boots on the ground, the people doing the fun work, getting things done. Safety and security, that's pretty self-explanatory. Police, fire, EMS, emergency communications, making sure that our town continues to be safe. If we host a team, that team is safe, and that any visitors have a safe and welcoming experience in Lawrence. Public services and infrastructure, making sure that all of our other government services and our infrastructure are up to snuff. Our housing branch, making sure that we have housing in the community for people coming in, and also that they're not displacing any of our residents who are already in town. Our transportation section, keeping people, getting people to where they need to go, and really focusing on this multimodal forms of transportation, as we have people coming from across the world where they don't have cars the same way that we in America do. They may not be driving, so making sure that they can bike, they can ride a bus, they can get around. Our economic development group really focusing on our business community and making sure that they can take advantage of the economic benefits coming into our community. And the culture and experiences branch, we call the fun branch. They're the ones making sure that our local community is engaged with people here, bringing the tourists in and making sure that they have a good time while they are here. Again, I mentioned the website. If anybody needs to know where to go for the latest information on local World Cup news, Lawrence2026.com is your place to go. There's some information up there. It's continuously being updated by all the members of the organization. So if there's not something up there yet, check back and you may see something. Our Joint Information Center has spent a lot of good work on this, as well as the marketing group within the Culture and Experiences branch. A few slides here just to talk about what are we actually doing, not just what are we intending to do. So of course, our safety and security branch, looking at keeping our community safe when we have any community events, things like watch parties, celebrations, any events to gain excitement for this event. And at a time of increased tourism, which is during a time that's normally kind of the slow season in Lawrence during the summer, we're going to be adding more people back in, so making sure we're prepared for that. Should we be hosting a team, we are working very hard on making sure that we have the capabilities to secure the training facility, secure the hotel, and provide escorts to the teams while they are in transit. Continually working with our regional and state partners on things like radio communications plans and mutual aid requirements, as we typically, for mutual aid, may draw out of the Kansas City metro area. A lot of those resources are not going to be available because they're working elsewhere in the thick of it within the metro. So we get to work with other partners, perhaps from the west or other parts of the state. And again, a big focus on human trafficking awareness and response among our law enforcement partners. So some law enforcement specific training there, and I'll touch more on that human trafficking topic in a minute. Infrastructure and Public Services branch, our friends at MSO are working hard with other downtown Lawrence partners and community partners to prioritize what projects should the city be taking on right now? What are things that we can do to beautify high traffic areas of the city and places where we want visitors to be? Coordinating traffic plans and traffic related projects, adjusting schedules if possible, coordinating with the transportation branch, inventorying any resources to support safety and security, things like barricades, things like that. As well as doing security assessments coming up of critical infrastructure with our federal partners. And I'll mention there are a lot of things that we are doing that are World Cup related, or the World Cup is kind of the catalyst for us getting these things done, but they're going to have lasting effects, or there are things that we could or should be doing at any time, but the World Cup is kind of giving us a time and an urgency to get it done. And this is one of those projects, conducting these security assessments of our infrastructure. As you all know, our housing branch recently finalized a text amendment to the short-term residential rental property code for the duration of the tournament. Currently working with our equity advisors on a FAQ for long-term and short-term renters. That's going to be posted to the Lawrence 2026 website. And having a conversation right now regarding camping and RV use, both in the city and in unincorporated parts of the county. And while, of course, Lawrence is primarily where all the activity is going to be centered during this thing, we know that the whole county is going to be affected in some way, in some form. So we are working with all of our agencies and organizations and our cities throughout the county, not just centered within Lawrence. We discussed the regional transportation plan, so our transportation group is finalizing that agreement, getting it on paper, and also working to provide additional safety training and security measures for our local buses and human trafficking training for city employees. Economic development recently hosted an online restaurant academy for local businesses, how to make sure that they are prepared for extra people coming in and how to market themselves and take advantage of this. They've hosted a couple of Ready, Set, Score business training for really any type of businesses to go through marketing, promotion, get excitement going in the local business community. More of those are being planned, as well as some social media trainings for small businesses. And working on some other events, not just fun soccer-related events, but things like job fairs to make sure that we have the workforce in our hospitality industry over the summer. Soccer education events, so what's the difference between a game and a match, that sort of thing. And more events to come. Any of these events are going to be posted on the Lawrence 2026 website if they're not already there. And again, the culture and experiences branch, the fun branch. So trying to create unmistakable experiences for World Cup visitors. When they come to Lawrence, we want them to come back. Also, making sure that we're prepared for large crowds. We can have larger events, not just for those coming in, but for those that are already here, so that they can engage with the World Cup. If they're not able to go to a match or go to Kansas City or go to one of these places, they can engage with the World Cup as it comes to Lawrence and have fun here in town. Looking at things like marketing, developing partnerships to work on gathering sponsorships to help pay for some of these fun activities, using local events that we're already doing, and finding ways to expand those so that people coming in can experience the things that Lawrence is already doing. History tours, architecture tours, agritourism tours, things like that. Fan experiences. The library is working on quite a lot of fun things for this summer, and developing a volunteer corps that can help support that, help meet visitors as they come into town. I mentioned our equity inclusion advisors a couple of different times as they're looking at the renter's fact sheet. Lawrence, Douglas County Public Health Department is developing a health impact assessment, which is going to be related to housing and related to the World Cup. And then is a big part of the human trafficking task force. Right now is being led by the Willow Domestic Violence Center, and they are developing a training that can be provided to local businesses and local organizations, awareness of how to spot human trafficking, how to respond appropriately. Large sporting events like the World Cup, like the Super Bowl, have an increase in human trafficking activity, and we want to be prepared for that, and we want to respond to that in the best way that we can. Some of the events and things that we have coming up right now, on February 23rd, there will be a business preparedness meeting led by our economic development branch. Douglas County Emergency Management has developed an extreme heat readiness workshop with partners within the fire department, the health department, the National Weather Service, and others to prepare businesses, event venues, organizations, how to be safe in the summer heat, how to keep visitors and patrons and employees safe in the summer heat, especially if we are seeing people coming in from other parts of the world that are not used to Kansas in the summer. And then digital, that is coming up on March 9th. And then a digital marketing workshop on January 29th and February 26th, again, being led by our economic development branch. What are things that you all can do or others within our community can do? One thing is, again, to sign up to be a volunteer. You can sign up on the website. Different things that you can do, like welcoming volunteers, helping out with large events. For anybody who's here, just practice radical hospitality, honing your customer service skills, how to give directions, know where the public restrooms are, how to use a crosswalk, things like that. Find some cultural humility training and understand people from other cultures that may be coming in. And something that didn't make it onto the slide, but we were reminded of today, find Google Translate or some other translation apps and practice using them. You may get a chance to practice using them in the summer, so be familiar with them if you can. And at this time, I will stand for questions.
Yep. Mayor, that's our presentation. I don't have any other comments, but I can help kind of field questions and make sure we get those to the right people.
Okay, do commissioners have questions? And maybe I'll start with one, and if you can answer this, or maybe the Fund Committee can answer this. What do we know about our the Fan Fest events? How many there are going to be? What kind of scale we're talking about? That sort of thing.
We might have Ruth.
Yeah, I'm going to look at Ruth for that one.
And while Ruth is coming up, I'll also acknowledge Annette Dagan has stepped up as well. We didn't update the org chart with her name, but Annette Dagan from Parks, Rec, and Culture, City of Lawrence, is on that team too.
Yeah, she's a great addition. We are hoping to have 6 to 8 sort of community watch parties during the tournament. We are trying to figure out sort of what some of the marquee matches are that would draw big crowds. We are planning to put out an RFP, so local promoters or people who are interested in hosting something will be able to bid on that. And we are really, really excited. There's a lot of sort of rules around that, what we can and can't call it, what we can and can't do, what we can't get in the way of in terms of international sponsorships and things like that. So we are working very diligently, studying all the community guidelines. But I can tell you that we absolutely have plans for a large-scale community event where we can gather together and watch some of these more intense matches. So one of the things we talked about was initially having the U.S. men's matches broadcast or played, and then we were thinking about the matches in Kansas City as well, but it might be that a team that is base camping here, we might want to show those matches, or if there's a match that is really pivotal to a team that's here, play one of those, or some of the higher profile matches as well. So we'll be working on that and hopefully have some announcements on that in a few weeks.
I'm sure there's plenty of other questions, so who wants to start?
Just real quick. So Ruth, just to piggyback on that sponsorship piece. So on the slide where you have sponsorships, because of the nuance of FIFA, World Cup, and all that, are you looking more for local regional sponsors, or is there more state of play that we can pitch to a U.S. company, or how does?
Yeah, thank you for that question. We are working to, so there's no current sort of dedicated fund to do some of this. So you might remember we worked to increase the transient guest tax, which only took effect on January 1st. So we are hoping that some of that transient guest tax increase can help with this, which is when it was initially passed, discussed. But also, for philosophical reasons, we want to bring in the community with public-private partnerships. So we have a whole lot of businesses here in Lawrence that deserve to be, highlighted and brought forward as supporters of these kind of events. They are interested, they want to support these events, and we want them to be showcased as such. So for many, we don't feel like it should just be public funding, that this should have community stakeholders involved and the business community as well. So we do have the national or international, I guess I should say, partners in McDonald's and Anheuser-Busch, and we have met with them to talk about how we can partner with them as well. So we are going down that path and sort of breaking through some of the, rules and regulations around that. But we definitely want to have our local community and our regional community represented as partners.
Okay. Under economic development, I know that there were a couple of events, high-level events for businesses. As far as, and we have kind of a healthy small business environment here. What steps are being taken to include and promote small businesses and small business engagement with local, regional, as well as our international guests?
Yeah. Steve or Trish?
You want to do that?
Good evening, Steve Kelly. Tricia Bergman from KU is also part of the leadership of the Economic Development Group or branch. As the commissioner mentioned, we have had a couple of workshops. One was a live event during the summer in July. The other was a virtual event in November to try and address issues that might arise because of people not having the ability during the day to participate or the flexibility in scheduling to spend that much time. And we tried to work it around lunch hour to make it work. We are planning, and I know there's been some initial conversations about another such event. We had chosen to wait a little while on those, hoping that we would have information on what teams might be here so we could target it a little bit more. Also, there's some cultural and currency things that we would like to talk about. So we hope to have that as soon as we have the ability to do that and know the teams that are going to be either located here from a base camp standpoint in the region, or those that would be likely playing here and would have fan bases coming. I think John also mentioned we've got some marketing workshops that we've put together. There's a workshop that we have organized for folks in maybe not actual brick and mortar restaurants, but one for food trucks and other smaller businesses that would be interested in maybe participating from a food purveyor standpoint. We've also talked about trying to do more of a general effort to drum up additional enthusiasm about World Cup as a whole. Those of us that are involved at this level kind of eat, sleep, and drink it. But there are a lot of people that really don't have a clear grasp of what this could be and what this is. So we're working on some of those kinds of events to help build awareness and kind of get more buzz around it as we get closer to the event. We're looking at some cultural training. It was mentioned, I think Ruth mentioned also that one of the keys for us is going to have our frontline workers in a position where they're comfortable, where they don't step on someone's toes accidentally by using the wrong term or those sorts of things. So I think that's going to be really important. We've been working with LRA, and we've got an event coming up where LRA and DLI will be there, and a lot of that focus is going to be on the culture and how to be the best frontline service employee that you can and be a welcoming host. So there's a lot of things, and again, I think we're really hoping to have the information on the teams pretty quickly. But as far as pushing the information out, and I also would be remiss if I didn't mention that we're not doing this just for Lawrence. We've been trying to do outreach. We've met with folks in the community, in all three communities outside of Lawrence and the county, have met with a number, as Ruth had mentioned, with a number of the school districts, and we're still working on school districts and also the private schools. So this is going to be an ongoing effort, because we think the more that people know, the more involvement that we'll have and the more successful it will be.
Yeah, I'm Tricia Bergman with KU, and maybe the one other comment I would have is last year, starting the summer, the Chamber had sector meetings. So the Chamber has 13 different sectors. Right. From manufacturing to finance to hospitality to education. And between Ruth and myself and Steve's team, we presented at all those meetings just to get people thinking about the World Cup and having them kind of brainstorm about what the opportunities might be for them. Because I think that's the biggest challenge, if you're not just a restaurant, is what can I do to get involved and how might I get involved in that? So I think this is just an ongoing communication effort that we're trying to push through.
Right. Thank you. Jumping around a little bit, 'cause I don't know if this is a logistics question or whatnot. My first thought of mine is cybersecurity. So are there any platforms, systems that we use that could potentially be attacks or threats during this time, such as maybe public safety systems?
Yep, absolutely. It's a question we've talked a lot about, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is, both the City of Lawrence and Douglas County are represented in the Safety and Security branch. We have bi-weekly meetings with them as well. CISA, our federal partner, has conducted cybersecurity assessments. They do them annually, or at least regularly, for both the city and the county systems. They've adjusted their schedule slightly so that both organizations' systems have been assessed. We recently did an exercise with the county and shared some of that information even with the city. Phishing attacks, cyber attacks, denial of service attacks are definitely real. They're definitely possible. So across the board, we are looking at ways of bolstering our systems and sharing more intelligence and more information between fusion centers and intelligence agencies, not just in Kansas, but with the KC metro area and Missouri. And one of the other things that we're starting to look at is things like fake ticket sales and scams. And so working on some public information that will end up being on the website and pushed out in other avenues about how you're supposed to be able to get tickets from FIFA, how to spot a scam, things like that.
Okay.
I'll just add, Commissioner, and that was a great update from John. Just for everybody's reference, CISA is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, just for those of you who don't work in emergency preparedness every day. And they've had somebody attending, as well as Kansas State Department of Emergency Management, each of our planning meetings. The level of support's been great. This is, the security preparation, it's at a continental level, and certainly we've got some members of our safety and security branch who have been in national meetings, working on logistics for coordination of emergency communications and other topics like that. So it is a very good question, and one we've spent a lot of time on.
Good to know. On the website, and I know we have where folks can sign up for the health and safety alerts through emergency management. Do we feel like we need to extend that even more? Or are we trying to identify, if there's traffic, if we notice that there's a traffic congestion in some part of town, is there any way that we can utilize the emergency management system to broadcast that, or are we going to try to do that in-house?
Are you talking about the Everbridge system?
Yes.
I'm not sure, and I haven't been involved in conversations about using that system specifically. John, do you have? Yeah.
Yeah, so we definitely have plans to reach out and try and get people to sign up for it so that they can receive weather alerts or other emergency alerts. Typically, we tend to use that for life safety types of alerts. It is something worth considering if we can create some kind of a World Cup specific alert that people can sign up for that may have more of those more information to push out, something that's a little bit maybe below life safety or otherwise, but it's something worth considering.
Okay, because I just wonder, I know that nationally, if we typically have amber alerts or silver alerts, that'll come through our phones, but just thinking if there's something more local or regional, whether it's suspicious activity and we want to make sure we keep people away from it, how would we be able to quickly disseminate that information out? And do we have a system to allow for that?
Yeah, we will have. Do you want to talk about the what is it, the command post that'll be set up?
Yeah, so we are going to plan on activating the County Emergency Operations Center for the duration of the tournament. If we have a team here that's base camping, we'll be activating it for the entire time that they are here. Most of the time that would just be staffed by emergency management staff, but we would step it up to a partial activation and bring in city and county partners and other agencies as needed. The point of that is to be actively monitoring any tournament operations, but also just any incidents or any events going on in the community so that we can quickly deploy resources to it if needed, get more resources. Part of that emergency operations center is the Joint Information Center. So somebody who's ready to send out public information via press release, social media, any other means. And if the Everbridge system is the way to do that, then it's definitely the way to do that. Okay. We want to promote and get as many people signed into that system as we can. And by all means, something that may not be worth the wireless emergency alert, the Amber Alert style alert to your phone, but still something that we can put out over Everbridge that would get more community members notified of what's going on.
Okay. I have two more questions and a comment, but I'll just go to a question and a comment. I know there were some early conversations about Amtrak and Missouri River Runner. Have we heard anything about that, or how those conversations are going?
Nothing much new. I know that there are communities in the metro area who are trying to lobby to get some traction on that issue. The last update I have is it would really be led by the state, Missouri and Kansas Departments of Transportation, and then we would show up in support of that. But we have not been, that's an initiative that really exceeds our capacity and resources here, so we have not been actively pursuing that here locally.
But we haven't heard anything from KDOT or MoDOT about it?
No, not necessarily at the regional level.
Okay, thank you. All right. I'll hold because I want others to ask questions, but I will note, I love the volunteer piece on the website. There's nothing that really identifies what the age cap is for volunteers, so I didn't know if that's something you want to add, or if there's, if a 14-year-old wants to volunteer, can they volunteer? Or are we thinking volunteers are just strictly 18 and up? So just something to think about on that sign-up sheet. I got a lot of folks that want to sign up, but I got some middle schoolers that want to sign up. You know how they are. So.
Okay.
All right, I'll yield. So.
Okay.
Others.
Other questions?
So I had, last year I had heard Pam Kramer, she's the CEO of KC 2026. Like, one of the comments she said that really stuck with me was that we're going to have the most amount of CEOs and heads of state in this region than we will probably in a generation, barring the new stadium, maybe that brings in a Super Bowl, but barring all that, this is something that's going to bring a lot of eyes to this region. So from an economic development perspective, what are we doing to put together information that makes this region look good, that we're capturing that information, we're following up on that, so that if CEOs, if they want to invest and bring their businesses here, we follow up with that afterwards.
Steve, go ahead.
Commissioner, you make a great point, and it's been, I think, one of the important aspects of this that a lot of people overlook is the opportunity to showcase for people that otherwise wouldn't be here. And as you say, there'll be a lot of CEOs, a lot of high-level executives from countries all over the world, along with dignitaries, leadership, political leadership, and that sort of thing. We've been in touch with the Kansas Department of Commerce, who has a network of resources, international resources, and have been hammering on them a bit to help assist us with making the right connections and making those sorts of things possible. Not that it's anything close to that, but we have had a number of foreign delegations that have visited the community over the last couple of years from a number of different companies and have set up tours. I think it's something that we're very capable of doing. And I think the community shows well, and we have some great assets. But I think you're exactly right. I think what we want to try to do is get folks to the community, and I think there will be some ability on the part of the state officials to help us with that, but to put together tours and opportunities for one-on-ones with leadership, and so the folks, when they're here, are not just totally focused on the games and the things that are around the games, but we'll take this as an opportunity, and we can use it as an opportunity to leverage our assets and build, some long-lasting opportunities that will, benefit the community, the county, and everyone else over time. And so I agree greatly. That's been one of the focuses, I think, and one of the potential legacies. There's been conversation about legacy of this. I think one of those could be those relationships and those long-term opportunities that come from having this kind of a guest list in the community.
I think in addition to that, there's probably some marketing opportunities that we'll explore. The Jayhawk is a global brand, so people will, they'll automatically associate Lawrence and Douglas County with the University of Kansas, even though, they do have a statewide presence as an institution. And in addition, to being a highly recognizable brand globally, KU is also, one of the, it's a primary economic driver for our community, with R&D, with property, real estate development, and other opportunities there, workforce pipeline. So, Tricia, I don't know if you want to talk anything specifically about that, but I think we can really market Lawrence Douglas County, EDC, KU as, from an economic perspective, not just a tourism and events perspective through this event.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is I think once we understand who the countries are, then you can think about what's driving those countries from an economic perspective, and we can do some targeted work as well. And certainly, as Steve said, we have companies and countries come to visit us on a regular basis, so we're really accustomed to doing this, but we can do it in a more targeted fashion.
Earlier, there was a mention of charter flights. Are they expected to fly out of MCI, or are they going to also fly out of LWC?
Thank you, Commissioner. When they've been touring here, we've directed them mostly to Forbes Field, or even if it's a small enough flight, perhaps the Lawrence Airport, but mostly Forbes Field, in that they would be about 19 miles from Rock Chalk Park, and that's where the KU charters fly out of.
Mm-hmm. Melissa Sieben, interim airport manager for the Lawrence Regional Airport. We actually have had one meeting with the regional airports, which are primarily the Kansas City area. We should have another one coming up here shortly, now that everybody's kind of getting situated here in the next week or so. We do intend to see a surge of charter flights. I have one appeal request I'm going to be putting into the state on a grant opportunity that we're seeing that may help us as well. So just to let you know, we did complete our airport apron project out here this last fall, new tie downs. We also are getting ready to install a compass rose celebrating our place in Kansas history. We will be a 100-year-old airport coming up in 2028, so it's kind of the kickoff for us, but we do intend to see quite a few charter flights. Right now we are taking in bigger and bigger aircraft all the time. Right now, if you were to head out there, there's quite a large jet that is recently made home to our airport, and we do support some of KU athletics operations, just not football and basketball for the men's side. Thank you.
Okay, I got two more questions, and then I'll take a break for a little bit. So there's a chance that we're going to have, a non-native English-speaking team. What are we doing to prepare our services, public safety, et cetera, for a non-English-speaking population?
Yeah. Go ahead, Ruth.
We have been so fortunate to tap into the KU International Affairs Department, and they are a group of faculty that is really excited. They've been on the Culture and Experience branch. They are willing to help in terms of translation, maybe not first translation, but certainly like sort of verifying that any sort of Google translation or electronic translation that's done is actually saying what we want it to say. And then they are very excited to have their students be involved in welcoming people and bringing everyone along. So we just have just a wealth of knowledge in terms of that department, and they have all been so willing to help. And they have a very wide swath of countries and cultures that they're immersed in. So they will not only be helping with, in terms of like actual translated materials, but many cultural trainings. And they've already given some sort of general cultural trainings for us without knowing the country, and once we get a country here, it will be more targeted, obviously. But it's been fascinating to work with them, and I just can't say enough about that team.
And then the last question I had for right now, it goes to what Commissioner Sellers was talking about. So many countries around the world, they use payment apps, unlike Venmo, unlike PayPal, stuff like we use here. Do we have a plan once we know which team is coming to try to incorporate their payment technology either into our services or just have a good feel of how that works?
We don't have a plan specifically, and we'll probably tailor solutions or advice. Like this organization's not going to develop pay apps and that sort of thing, but we're here to help support our businesses so that they can conduct commerce. And so I know some banks, Commerce Bank, for example, I think last week issued a very informative white paper on how businesses can prepare to handle cash or handle financial transactions. So there are a number of different resources. KC26 has provided some resources as well that I think are linked on our website too, kind of the game plan. So we will be here to help support businesses learn how to conduct commerce with people from the country that we're likely to host. But we won't be developing that solution ourselves. So.
No, 100%. No, I agree with that. And to the point you just made, is the expectation that local businesses will be able to take cash in the currency of the team that visits, and they'll be able to do the translation on that, or that people will come here with whatever currency that is, and they'll trade that to dollars?
I think likely trade.
Okay.
Commissioner Pullian, any questions?
I do. It's over safety and security.
We're also the fun branch, too.
You guys are the fun branch. You're the funnest branch. How are we bringing additional law enforcement agencies into town? How do we know when we need to? How are we planning that? I'm assuming it's not just through mutual aid, auto aid. These are things that we need to plan for.
Sure.
It's kind of a 2 or 3 part question. And then how are we going to be paying those agencies? Are we going to be paying those agencies? Are we asking for volunteer help? And then one of the biggest issues, we have to obviously be prepared for any major event that could be bad for us. One of the issues law enforcement agencies, when you're dealing with multiple agencies working on one event, is the communication. You guys, I would love to just, you don't have to tell me what your solutions are, but that you guys have thought about that and are well prepared, or will be getting well prepared.
To answer the last question first on communication, specifically, and I am not a radio expert, there's people that are way, way above my head on this, but we have the ability, in particular with Kansas agencies, to go to radio channels that are programmed into each of our radios across the state to communicate. And so that's kind of, when I say it's a been there, done that type thing, but that's something that we are familiar with and able to do. So to kind of back up, and once I stand up here, I know I represent the Lawrence, Kansas Police Department, but also we have the University of Kansas Police Department, Douglas County Sheriff's Office, and the Highway Patrol is going to help us out. So kind of based on our understanding of the day-to-day of what this is going to entail, we're going to be able to do this with our local resources. We have a duty to secure the hotel. We have a duty to secure the practice site when the team is practicing. And then most importantly, provide escort, move the team around as they navigate, going to and from the practice site. If they want to do, I think, like a formal team activity or dinner, we would also then escort them for that. But probably the major focus for us collectively is continuity of operations. And I can speak for the Lawrence Police Department, but also think the Sheriff's Office and the KU Police Department has done this as well, is we've essentially blacked out or not allowed for any extra days off. So officers, our personnel are going to get their time off, but we just kind of discourage, like, hey, let's not take any vacations in June and early July. We'll have to deal with that in August when everybody now wants to go out of town. But then when it comes down to there's events we could potentially plan for, I kind of look towards, similar to the Final Four. We're used to that, about bringing in mutual aid, and the Kansas Highway Patrol, love them to death. They're one of our biggest providers of resources. But just like as we were seeing here today, if something went off and during the World Cup, we would reach out then for mutual aid for outside law enforcement agencies to come help us out. If there's something we can plan for, such as we know something really big is about to happen, by all means, then we would begin to work on that sooner than just kind of wait for it to happen.
Okay. You did a great job. Is the escort going to be similar to what they do at the Super Bowl? Like they clear highways and all of that?
That, probably more for game day escorts, but here locally, we're required to have a security presence with them,
Okay.
a tail and a lead car, so,
Okay,
yes.
that's great. Thank you. I appreciate the information.
Thank you.
Can I follow up with one question on that?
Sure.
So there's a concern that ICE will be performing raids in host cities and in host regions. What are we doing to not only make sure that the people who visit our city are safe and feel safe, but have a great experience during the World Cup? Are we talking at the local, county, and state level about what that could look like?
Sure, and I can speak specifically now to the Lawrence, Kansas Police Department.
Please.
And one is we've talked about, translating and interacting with, I'm not the chief, so I can't necessarily tell everybody what the Lawrence, Kansas Police Department is or isn't going to do, but I can speak with my 23 years of experience. This is not going to be one of, we have new people in town, let's find ways to write them tickets or take them to jail. It's going to be more of a, we can be the welcoming branch, if that makes sense. I always kind of consider the police the concierge to the city. And so our goal is, number one, is to make people, whether they're just visiting from another city or they're visiting from another country, to make sure that they do feel safe and that they're welcome here. As a kind of reminder now, again, to our policy, and specific to ICE, is about 3, 4, 5 years ago, and I'm looking at the rest of the commission if one of you was on when this had occurred, but we had essentially adopted a policy which formalized our current practice. Civil immigration enforcement is not a Lawrence, Kansas Police Department function. It's not a municipal police department function. And so that cemented, and can anybody help me remember, was it like 3 or 4 years ago? Am I about right?
Yes.
So that cemented the practice that has been in place since I've been here now for 23 years, that is not a Lawrence, Kansas Police Department function. And so within that policy, though, it is a requirement of ours, should we assist ICE or any other federal agency with civil immigration enforcement, that we would have to notify the public. And so, but again, it's just not something that we do.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sure you'll.
No, go ahead.
And I think not for you, but I appreciate what we're talking about. But as far as the fun part of getting people to and from Lawrence using the bus system that they put in place, I'd like to hear a little bit more about when that, or how, you talked about a frequency of every 30 minutes, but when would that be happening? Would it be when games are happening, or is it just if you wanted to stay in Lawrence and go to Kansas City, could you just take the bus at your leisure? I just want to make sure I understand what responsibility we might have, and if our bus system is then going to kind of properly be able to move people from that point during those service stops. There you are. Thank you.
Good evening.
See you. Yeah.
Lisa Laverne, Director of Transit. The transportation from Kansas City to Lawrence will be provided by KC26. So they're going to work with us to make the schedule match with our buses so that if you come in there, you'll be able to use our local transit service really easily. But they'll be providing vehicles, frequency. We both use the transit app, so you're already able to plan a trip seamlessly from Lawrence to Kansas City, but we'll be getting extra added features being in the region with KC 2026 to make that even more seamless. So our local operations will remain as they are today, just with the added benefit. And we're still waiting to learn more about exactly when the buses will start and learn more details from there.
So they'll be operating that commuter service.
Yes, they will.
And as they have, and then they're just going to increase the frequency, and then we're going to continue to operate our routes at the current times, and then the on-demand service is going to be available to people as well. And I guess I wanted to try to tie this together is the fact that we have a reliable transit system. One of the reasons why we're getting this opportunity, because it feels odd that they would just have a bus service to a town without public transit. So can you kind of elaborate on that for me?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, last year was our 25th anniversary for Lawrence Transit, so we have a long history of a really reliable transit system. We opened Central Station in 2024. I think that's a wonderful opportunity. It's a world-class facility. We work with our regional partners already, with Greyhound and Johnson County Services, to let them come into Central Station, use our facilities, things like that. So we have a long-standing partnership already with our regional partners, and we're set up to take advantage of that. We have a food vendor. We have plans for other exciting opportunities at Central Station. And so I think, the planning organization that's been stood up and our early connections with KC26, along with our incredible local transit service, are absolutely part of that.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the help.
Related question for you. I understand, I mean, I think as I understand it, if I wanted to go into FanFest, I could come down, get on the bus, go into FanFest and come back. Central Station doesn't have the best parking. Is there a plan yet? I mean, would I take a bus to get to Central Station and go, or is there a plan to have some sort of other mechanism?
Absolutely, good question. There are a lot of places you can park around the city and take the bus to Central Station. So we'll say some of our local parking garages could be used as a de facto park and ride, but we will be asking folks to use the bus service to get to the KC 26 connector.
Excellent.
I have one more question. It's more of a Brandon and EcoDevo question. Money, 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 money. So I know that the legislature appropriated some money that I think directly went to updates for Children's Mercy Park. And I know that there was another tranche of money that was supposed to come in. And then I know that in the current appropriations budget for this year, there is a line item for some of the World Cup ARPA fund dollars. Have we heard anything about, I think, what was it, December, the grant closed, and so do we know when awards will be announced? And do we have any thoughts or leakage that there'll be more funding from the legislature?
No.
Right.
It has been,
Just so it's on the record.
Challenging subject, yeah. And I apologize, Commissioner Sellers, I'm not completely up to speed on the last, like the grant funding opportunities necessarily.
Okay.
But we have communicated with state officials, state legislators, KC 2026. What we do know, we can say with some degree of certainty, is that costs that we incur here locally, such as for, paramedics on standby, law enforcement officers who are working site security, team security, that sort of thing. So kind of direct costs. We have a high degree of confidence that we will be reimbursed for those costs. So I think that will probably be coming out of the state tranche, the state funding, the $25 million that went to KC 2026. Right. I think that is a safe assumption that is how that money will largely be used. I can't speak for KC 26, but I think that's how it will largely be used to help then reimburse Kansas communities that are either providing mutual aid for Kansas City sites or incurring costs in their own communities specifically related to World Cup teams or events.
Okay.
Can I add a quick layer to
Yeah,
that?
go ahead.
Yes, you can.
Yep, you got to go to the mic.
It is, to my understanding, and I know you mentioned a few grant possibilities, but from KC 2026, and I can't speak to what grant that they're receiving this money from. It's been told, I just forget or I don't remember the title. But police regular salaries are not reimbursable, but any overtime costs would be able to be reimbursed by KC 2026.
Okay.
That's what I was told here a couple months ago.
Okay.
And was that just for police, or was that just public safety in general, EMS?
I don't want to mislead, so I'm saying it was me and some other police were on the meeting with KC 2026, so I don't know is the answer about when it comes to fire and med. I do know there's a fire and med requirement out at the practice site, but I just don't know.
Okay. I would imagine it would include them, so.
Yeah, I think it's a
Thank
safe
you.
assumption.
Yeah. I think for the most part, it's over preparedness, because I do believe the federal dollars are through FEMA.
Yes.
So there's that preparedness piece. And I know we were included in, Missouri was the one that wrote for, I do believe, that applied for the grant for the FEMA.
That sounds accurate to me.
And they just added us to it. But I'm just curious to know, there's a lot of talk about KC Metro, and I'll make an argument that we should be part of the KC Metro, but I want to make sure we are part of it for financial
Yes,
purposes.
so it is a special allocation to the Homeland Security Grant Program.
Right.
Typically, through Douglas County, there's a Kansas region that we apply for these grants for. This is a special one-time thing. It did go through the state of Missouri. However, we have been assured multiple times that the money that will go from Missouri as the state into KC 2026, and it will include us and the other Kansas counties that are doing World Cup related activities.
Good to know. Thank you.
Ruth had one more question for you. And you and I talked about this a little bit the other day, but I was telling you when I was in Japan with the sister city, one of the things they remembered most about coming to Lawrence was Haskell, seeing, going out to the prairie to see buffalo, seeing the Native Americans, something they're very interested in. What are we doing to work with Haskell and some of our, or the museum at Haskell and others to highlight that as a cultural opportunity?
Thank you so much for that question. There's so many great things to talk about that some I didn't get to. But in the Culture and Experience branch, we have Travis Campbell from the Cultural Center at Haskell as a pivotal member of that branch. My understanding is that they are creating a tour, and they have already created sort of a self-guided tour through the Cultural Center and translated it into, I can't remember how many languages, but they are prepared to tell that story to whatever country is prepared to come. And it happens to also be America 250 next year, because why not? You just pile on. So we have several historic and heritage groups that are part of our activities, that are planning history tours, that are planning architectural tours, that are planning a way to tell the story of Lawrence and Lawrence's founding, and certainly the indigenous peoples that were here before any of that started. So they are integrally involved in our work, and we also are using Shelby and the Equity and Inclusion branch to make sure that the story that's told of Lawrence, that people are coming here, are hearing the whole story, and are hearing a story that represents all the people who were here. So we're very proud of that work, and those tours, we believe, will be sort of offered to people through a digital passport that explore Lawrence, like our Winter Wonder Pass or our Summer of Fun Pass, that we will have World Cup digital passes that people can check in our historic sites, in our heritage sites, and learn about how they can get it, even through itineraries that I've got 4 hours in Lawrence. What do I go see when I'm a history buff? I have 2 hours here. What do I do if I'm a foodie? What if I'm on foot? So by modality, by interest, and by time. So people will be exposed to everything that we have to offer that way as well. But thank you, because Haskell is really important.
Thank you for that. But you did remind me of a different question. I know the city, along with other partners, often has a 4th of July celebration. Give me an update on how what this group is doing overlaps with that typical planning process.
Yeah, happy to. So Summerfest has typically happened on July 3rd, and there was talk early on about whether that should be on July 4th or stay on July 3rd, and Porter and Lindsay have been working really, really hard on that. Because of the outside chance that the U.S. men's team could be playing in Kansas City Stadium on the 3rd, Summerfest will be happening on the 4th, and we are hoping to provide funds that sort of boost that event to make it even sort of bigger and more accessible and welcoming than it already is. So July 4th, big celebration. Mark your calendars. You might be tired from the men's team playing the night before, but we are looking forward to that happening on the 4th this year.
Excellent. Thank you for that update. Okay, any other questions for now before I open it up for public comment?
Yeah, just a couple more, of course, yeah. I wanted to follow up on Commissioner Devers' point about at Central Station. Do we know if the vendor is going to be a local company that's going to be providing the food, or has that been determined yet?
Thank you for the question. We currently have a vendor in the space, Boba and Beyond. They are a local business.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate that. And then, Ms. DeWitt, probably for you, we talked about Haskell. I also think about, USD 497. Obviously, they're not in, during the summer, but you can imagine that 50 years from now, there could be a bunch of kids or people at that point who are like, yeah, when I was a kid, I remember when, the World Cup came and all that. So are we, for some of the plans that we're coming up with, how are we focusing on the kids in town to have an experience for the World Cup? Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for that question, and I completely agree. I want all the kids in Douglas County to say, I remember when the World Cup came to my town, because I certainly think it's going to be remarkable in their journey. So we have met with the superintendents around Douglas County, and I had a long meeting with Dr. Swift, who is very excited about incorporating kids into the activities. We've talked about a few things, certainly sports and soccer. Also, culture and history, geography, learning about these countries and who is coming and what their customs might be. But also things like art and music. We are looking at public art exhibitions and things that we can do artistically around town. And there was, one of the examples was an artist who dipped soccer balls in paint and had like Tyvek and like just kicked soccer balls around. And we were talking about how art classes could prepare projects that are on display when countries and visitors come. Also, there is an opportunity for early things to happen in the spring that we can get children to be involved in. And we even talked about some kind of sort of ceremony in terms of the local, maybe the high school bands, but also the middle school bands, about learning the country's national anthem that are here. So Americans love their marching bands, and countries love marching bands from America. It's kind of a thing that they get into. So we hope we can display that and make sure that even though school will not be in session, that the kids are involved in leading up to it. The other one thing that I would say is I learned from a cultural meeting that one of the things, people love to come and watch, and they love to come and go to restaurants and drink and celebrate, but they also really love to play soccer. And one of the things that the Guadalupe Center is working on in Kansas City is just finding places for pickup games. And 3-on-3, 4-on-4 games can happen like on concrete. We don't need really expansive fields to have that happen. So the school district is looking into places to provide areas for pickup games as well. And we would put we are very lucky to have, two great high schools with great soccer teams for both young women and young men. And then we have a really rich couple of groups locally that we'd love to involve kids in helping other kids learn how to play. So those are some events that we're working on. And Commissioner Sellers, to your point about young volunteers, certainly having some of our younger soccer players help out on the places where people are going to be playing soccer is one of our goals.
Okay, last question for me. It was mentioned about RV use in the city and in the county. So is that going to be directed to COA or to Clinton Lake, or could there be RVs parked in people's driveways, kind of like almost like a mobile ADU?
Anything's possible. Jeff Craig-Lawler.
Good evening, Commissioners. It's one of the things that we're looking at right now. We don't anticipate having any changes inside the city limits related to RVs and camping. There's too many other ancillary issues that crop up with power and utility connections and septic issues that come up. So we're not anticipating that at this point in time. One of the other things we're looking at is in an unincorporated Douglas County, Clinton Lake, and those areas. And we're having conversations with them, and county staff is looking at FAQs and things that they could be able to distribute and say, here's the campgrounds that are open, here's the process that you go to. We're also working with Lawrence Douglas County Public Health for information put online about here is haulage companies, and here's where you can have tank dumpage and those kind of things. And some more information, since it's pretty heavily regulated by the state. But at this point in time, we're not expecting any changes inside the city limits related to camping and RV at this stage.
Okay, thank you. Those are all questions for now. I'll open it up for public comment. If any members of the public would like to speak, you have 3 minutes.
So, I rent in the city. From May to August, it is nearly impossible to find an apartment because all the landlords set all of their leases to expire around July and August. You guys just made it, so they have an incentive to keep those units empty until June and intensified our housing issues. You need to be cognizant of that as you move forward on this. We need more housing to actually address this. Additionally, warranty of habitability does not include air conditioning. We are going to have people coming to town who are maybe used to colder environments than June and July of Lawrence, Kansas. So adopting that into our municipal code would not only serve for this period, it would also serve Lawrence into the future. Additionally, we do not have a good plan, it sounds like, for people who may get caught by ICE. Because the reality is we have people right now nabbed at airports for nothing more than criticizing Donald Trump. And I don't know if you've noticed, but right at this moment, Donald Trump is currently in a pissing match with the whole of Europe. It's like, who knows who will be on the chop block by June and July? You're going to need legal resources available. You're going to need to make certain that maybe people can register ahead for the folks who are interested in still coming. You know, the United States is a pariah right now. It sounds like you guys are counting on people showing up to a country that is in the midst of fascism, and where many of them have already suffered the consequences of that. So these are things to keep in mind as you move forward with this. Because if you don't, it's very possible that people you're counting on coming might be stopped at the airport, might be disappeared, and you guys might not even know about it. And they might not have the legal resources to navigate that process. Thank you.
Christina McKenna, 66046. I also have several concerns. I'm really grateful that it's a locally owned immigrant business that's providing some of the food. That's awesome. However, I'd like to see us supporting more of our local residents. There's going to be a lot of concern. There's a lot of traffic issues. I mean, we know it's already hell sometimes when school starts up with the colleges and adding a lot more people to it. I know the colleges are going to be mostly empty, but some students are going to stay just because they want to be closer to the games. They'll have things set up. There are also some who live locally. My son's at KU and he lives locally. He doesn't leave the dorm. So there are going to be some of those. So traffic patterns are going to be rougher, especially adding a bus, and our bus is not as reliable as they would have you believe. Anyone that I have ever talked to about using the bus, their first thing is it's not reliable and you can't believe the app. So that's going to be another thing that's going to cause snags and issues, as well as hopefully we're helping especially bolster the community businesses on 9th and places where we may have construction and things like that, and making sure the community knows, the new community coming, that those are still accessible and that they really need support, because that's going to be a really hard time for them right now. And it should have been a better business time, because of summer and things like that. So hopefully we're taking into account these extra things that may seem small, but they'll stack up for everybody who lives here and is caring about this community too. Thank you.
Thank you. And looks like Courtney's coming.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I hadn't heard anything mentioned about this, although I've discussed it with some of you before and with other members of the organizations for years, is that we don't have great signage on our way into town on K10 and I-70. In a way, it's like we're hiding. Eudora has really beautiful signage on the way into K10, and even on its back road, which is basically a farmer's road, has gorgeous signage, and we have never done that. In theory, I've been told by some organizations that there could be funding available through some of the things you've talked about tonight that might help us get some more signage, especially off I-70, if people are going to be coming in from the Kansas City airport. Because if you think about it, you know, you see KU signs going that way, but you don't really see as many going this way. So you would want someone coming, if they were driving a rental car on the bus, to see giant signs saying, "Get excited, you're about to be in Lawrence." And we have 3 exits on I-70, and I guess technically 3 exits off K10, and they're lackluster at best. So I just want to throw this back at you, as I've also talked to some of our representatives and senators about how we could, if we could get some, you know, we only have a few months, but even if it could be a regular old billboard, but in the future also to think about how we should be representing ourselves to people coming off K10 and I-70 in a more artistic and Lawrence-y way. Thank you.
Hello, David Baston, 66047. I do want to just say a big thank you to the city for all the work that they're doing on this. That's tons of stuff going into it, and it really looks like you're checking all your boxes, and I just want to applaud you guys for doing all that. Yes, and I do want to point out one little thing. I know we ostracize a builder here in town, but I think you need to lift him up, because you wouldn't even have any of this World Cup going on if it wasn't for him building Rock Chalk Park and also building the Oriad Hotel. So I know you need to look at the good things that's this particular builder, Thomas Fritzl, has done, and not keep just throwing him under the rug. Thank you.
Any other comments in the room? Seeing none, any comments online?
We do have a few. Jeffrey Hepler.
Hey y'all, Jeffrey Epler, 66044. I just wanted to also second the appreciation for all the hard work that went into this analysis and all the angles that were taken into account. I also appreciate Vice Mayor Courtney for bringing up ICE and their presence. And I bring this up because I think that the framing of the World Cup coming into town, and all of the, all the angles that were taken into consideration for that. I just hope that that's how we approach when ICE comes here, because they're in the metro area of KC already as of last weekend. Thank you.
Chris Flowers.
Hi, this is Chris Flowers. And first off, I heard that it sounds like there's going to be a lot of CEOs and I guess businessmen coming to town. And they're going to be here partying. I'm just wondering, with all this police increase, are we going to be doing any kind of DUI checkpoints or anything? Because when it's the students partying, when it's April 20th, when it's the last day of class or the stop day or whatever, we've done DUI checkpoints, we do police saturations, we issue out warnings that, hey, we're going after you if you're going to be drinking and driving. Now we got a bunch of rich businessmen coming to town to party. Are we going to be having the police go after them the same way we have them go after our students when they're out partying? I just want to throw that out there because I think the answer is no. So if the answer is no, we're not going to be going after these people for partying, then let's not do it April 20th. So this April 20th, if there is a release saying we're going to have a police saturation, I'm going to be here bitching saying, hey, are we going to be doing it during the World Cup then when it's a different group of people? Also, my next question is, are we shortly before we have this, what will the city be doing to get rid of the homeless presence? Because are we going to start cracking down on encampments again? Are we going to start going after people if they're sleeping on benches? Because I think the city's not going to want homeless people around. I don't think they want Lawrence's image being associated with the homeless. I'm just wondering if there's going to be a crackdown on them shortly before the World Cup. I'm completely against it if there is. And also, I think we should let people have RVs in town. If we're going to do where we're going to lift the ability, or we're going to lift the restrictions on landlords so they can do the rentals to Airbnbs for the summer, why not let people do RVs? I mean, if it's so important that we have to lift up the restrictions that are protecting long-term renters, then we can lift the restrictions on RVs. Thank you.
That's all the comments, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the commission for any additional questions or comments.
Actually, something Christina said brought up a question for me. Are there limits for Uber and Lyft drivers in town, and is that going to be opened up during this period?
Limits?
Well, I mean, how many people can sign up, or anything like that.
I'm not sure. Is that something that the companies control?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
We do not regulate those at the local level. In Kansas, it's regulated by the state. So, Lyft and Uber would have a transportation network company agreement with the state of Kansas.
Okay.
Yeah, we can look into that. And we do have actually a subject matter expert who is trying to develop some support and education and promotion for Uber and Lyft drivers as well.
Gotcha. And then a question probably for you, Melissa. There was Courtney brought up the point about signage, what we can do. Earlier it was mentioned there was a beautification thing, maybe with the roundabouts and some of the parks and stuff like that. Could as was mentioned, signage, something like that, win some grants where we could do something like that when you enter K10 I-70? I think it's a really interesting idea.
As far as grants, I'm not aware of anything that would qualify for that type of signage. So, no, great idea. Trust me, I've been down that road a few times in my career for different things. What I would say is that, we'll be using our message boards. Scott Fewens is here tonight as well, and we are working with Parks and Rec on the other beautification things. The short-term ability to pivot on signage or construction of those types of things, it just is going to make it really hard. So I apologize about that, but we like to deploy our message boards to help people, so we'll be working with the committee in smart ways to deploy those and help folks get where they need to be.
Okay. And we'll also reach out to KDOT and KTA to see if there's opportunities to add signage as well on those corridors. We do have some monument signs in some of those corridors, like as you get off the turnpike coming down North 3rd Street, coming in off McDonald Drive. But it's a good point that those are often overlooked. And so Scott Fewens, who I believe is supposed to be off today, is here tonight. We won't put him on the spot. Otherwise, we'll be here all night long. But he's been leading the team with Parks Recreation Culture and MSO, trying to just assess those corridors, assess downtown areas and some of our key kind of gathering spots. Identify ways without spending too much money that we can beautify those and spruce the place up, so to speak. So we're looking forward to some of those and kind of putting our best foot forward.
I might be having a revisionist recall, but I want to feel like maybe it was 2 years ago, we had the discussion about the potential to have a wayfinding at US 59 with the expansion of the SLT. And I know that our funding agreement with the county changed. Is that what impacted that project, or did KDOT just say, eh?
My memory's fuzzy on that. I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
so I remember we had a conversation about it, and then I can't remember.
We'll look into it, though.
Okay.
Yeah. As I recall, I think we did put some additional money in to beautify the bridge maybe and do some things to spruce up the bridge and coming in. But I can't remember if it had I do not believe it had a sign. I believe Courtney talked about that at the time.
Yeah.
And we didn't get that in there. But Craig, did you have a...
Well, the only other thing in recollection was also when we were working on 23rd Street, we were, KU was really looking at wayfinding signage, and they were doing that work at the time, and I think we were waiting for 23rd Street to be completed so that we could then coordinate on signage for the university.
Okay.
I want to address the short-term rental issue that we ultimately passed, and I do still believe that was what we needed to do. However, a lot of people have expressed concern that landlords in town are going to basically forego close to a year's lease so they can capitalize on this time that we will have the World Cup here potentially. I found that hard to believe, but that I'm never the smartest person in the room. I've been surveying landlords around town, and they are not interested in doing that in the ones that I've spoken with. In fact, their larger concern is that their tenants are going to sublet without telling them. So hopefully we can get through that. But I would like to say to the public, if anybody has not had their lease renewed because of the World Cup, I would be very interested in hearing that. I'm not finding that to be the case, but I would really like to hear if that is happening. I think this could be a great opportunity for a lot of our folks to hopefully make a little bit of an extra income. If they, maybe landlords and tenants could work together on this, and maybe if their tenants can get out for a month and they maybe work together, that could be an opportunity. But I really want to hear if anybody's getting uprooted from their homes because of this. It is vital that we know about it. So please, that's my request to our public. Thank you.
Other comments, questions? I just want to thank everyone who's doing an amazing job on this, and you have been for a long time. And really, I know there's a lot of work left to be done. Clearly, it's going to be an exciting time here in the next, 10 days when we find out who our country is. Hopefully, we will be a host site, and we'll have a host country, and I look forward to learning about that country and starting to come up with some of those specific plans for that specific country, and we can put our best foot forward with them, as well as the teams that are going to be hosted in Kansas City. I mean, as I've heard so many times, I think we'll see a lot of churn between those folks staying in Kansas City. They might be there for 10 or 14 days. They're going to be looking to come in here. People are going to be here or going to be wanting to go to Kansas City, and how we can put that best foot forward. I also appreciated the comment that a lot of these things are things we've talked about doing or should be doing, and this gives us a reason to do it, an emphasis to do it. And I'm glad everyone has taken that opportunity, and I think we'll be a better city and be more prepared. You know, the talk of the Chiefs possibly coming, followed by a Final Four, followed by a Super Bowl, and all those things that might happen, this will give us some of that preparedness for those opportunities. So I want to thank the KC 26 for all they're doing and their leadership and all they're providing for us. Obviously, the KC Connect is a big deal for us, and appreciate their support in making that happen. So I look forward, maybe hopefully after we have our country here, maybe having a report back or seeing what else we can do to support that. And I know the plans will solidify as we get there with that country. But thank you for all the divisions. Thank you for everything you have done and everything you will do, because there's a lot yet to come. Any other comments?
No, I agree.
I completely agree with that. Are we going to have another chance to hear from this as we get closer to the event? Is that that would be
That's
the
the plan.
expectation?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
As we get closer. And I would say as a side note, I'm also excited about what this might do for the July 4th festival and the 250th anniversary. And, I know there's been some talk in the community, of course, about making that a larger event anyway for the 250th. Now combine that with maybe many out-of-town visitors who are looking for that experience of a traditional 4th of July, as we call it, something that they don't experience. It could be a really large event that I think we can be proud of, and of course the whole community will be part of that. So, absolutely. Okay, thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As they clear the room, we're going to go to commission items and the future agenda, but we might give them a second. Okay. Any commissioners have any commission items?
I have one. It's more of a celebration. Had the opportunity last Thursday.
Can we close that door? Coming back in. You okay?
All right. Last week I had the opportunity to attend the closing reception for the exhibition for Njuje Wahobe, Sacred Red Rock, at Spencer Museum. And so had the opportunity to speak with several of the committee that put that together, some of the artists. I think there was a group sing-along at the end that I think was more encouraged and impromptu, and just really enjoyed it. And it was, Spencer appreciated those who were part of the committee, appreciated having city representation ×2, because I just came in behind to support our city attorney, Tony Wheeler, who played an immense part in this whole journey with the relationship with the city, with the university, and with the Kansa tribe, and getting Grandfather Rock back home. So that was beautiful, and she was gifted a beautiful book that maybe it will have a brief showing here at City Hall, but I just want to say it was a very beautiful evening, and it was great to see the city shine, and I just be there to cheer the city on. So thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other commission items?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
The only thing I did, one of the things I did in this past week, I met with the neighborhood that's around Fire Station number 6. And the reason I did that is they had reached out to me to talk about some of the water and drainage issues that they have in and around that area. So just as a heads up, when we start talking about Fire Station 6 and what that looks like, I will like some clarification on what that looks like from the drainage side, because they have pictures of what the drainage looks like now, and if you put asphalt over there and that goes running off, there are legit worries. So just throwing that out there. So once we get close to having those discussions, I'd like to have a really good dig down deep into drainage for that.
Okay, couple of things. First, we had a tragic loss. We had a shooting on Friday night, Saturday morning, and I'm not going to discuss the specifics of that other than it was incredibly tragic, and I'm sorry for the families that have suffered loss. One silver lining in that incident is on Saturday, I reached out to the owners of the Hawk and asked, not in an official capacity, but as a friend of some of the owners, if I could help assist in the crisis response, because as we have experienced when we had a recent shooting at City Hall, the first thing we want to make sure that we're doing is we're getting to the staff that is around a traumatic event like that. So on Saturday, I reached out to DECA, Lori Alvarado, and asked, because she had offered her assistance with our incident here, and she was on it, and she collaborated with Bert Nash, and by Sunday morning, we had a team ready to work with the staff that was at the Hawk during the incident, and it was brilliant. And I want to give a big shout out to both DECA and Bert Nash for that. So thank you for that. I got to tell you, I didn't want to hold up the World Cup group, but I am intrigued by the idea of RVs. You can bring in temporary electric, and maybe there's opportunities here. We don't need to discuss it at length here, but maybe I'll pick at Brandon's head or Jeff's and see, is this something we could do? Do we have enough capacity? I think it may not be worth another discussion openly, but I am intrigued by it for sure. I think that is it, other than thank you for everything that you guys have done, truly.
Excellent.
Mayor?
Oh, yes.
Just quick, because I know it's going to roll into future agenda items. I know when we had the conversation around Chapter 6, Article 13, I know there were several discussion points, and I know I shared about fines and fees, and I know that Randy commented on that. I know there was discussion about bringing that back to us as far as what we could enforce within the parameters of what we currently have, and I didn't see it on the future agenda items, so I didn't know if I just need to go ahead and reintroduce that.
You're talking about fines and fees related to short-term rentals if they violate?
Yes, because we know that there is a framework, but I was wanting us to step that up and be a little bit more granular and intentional around it.
Yeah, I believe Randy said it was going to be looked at, but I don't see that on the future agenda.
Okay.
We could just,
That's all.
I'll make note of that, thank you.
at least some sort of report on what's the options are.
That's a great start, so at least.
Yes. Okay. And yeah, that brings us to future agenda. Any other future agenda items there? Let me see.
And that would be Article 13A, not necessarily Article 13. 13A is what deals with short-term rentals.
Okay.
Fees.
Seeing none, that brings us to the very long city manager's report. Greg?
Take a deep breath.
City manager's report has the utility billing report, so happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Would anyone from the public like to talk about this utility billing report and the city manager's report? Seeing none in the room, anyone online?
No, Mayor.
Okay, that brings us to the commission calendar. And did want to raise a question. I think, March, it's not yet on the calendar, but the March meeting, March 7th, is it the 17th? Yeah, March 17th. Commissioner Sellers and I will be at National League of Cities. There's also spring break for those who have kids. Are you guys going to well, you have kids, but not that young anymore. Are you guys?
Not discriminating.
No offense. Okay, does anyone have plans for spring, anyone planning to be gone that meeting already? It might be a small crowd. If anyone else is planning to be out of town.
I apologize. I forgot I was going to bring this up. There is one meeting that I do need to miss, which is March 10th. I've been asked to judge the statewide Boys and Girls Club Youth of the Year competition.
Cool.
And I would really, really, really love to do that. I was honored to ask. So, and then I have some surgery that I have to do on March 30th, but I think I'll have a week's time, so I should be good. But there's also a possibility I may not be able to be here the first meeting in April. But that is all I have. I wanted to get that out there. I've already alerted staff to it, but thought you guys should know as well.
And so I guess the question is, when people travel, is it remote? Could we do a quorum remotely?
Yes, we certainly can do remote. We can also, think twice since I've been on the commission, we've moved the meeting from spring break week to the 24th. I mean, this particular March, we have 5 Tuesdays. So if I might be flying back on that Tuesday night. I might not be available at all. If I'm still in DC, I might be able to get online, but Commissioner Sellers has.
So
we don't know
last few times that I've traveled for NLC and have logged in remotely.
It's difficult.
I have been on East Coast time, other than this last time. I was in Salt Lake City, and they were both barn burners.
Yeah.
And so it's late for you all. It's even more late for me. And then I end up missing things that I should not be missing. So because we have that extended time in March, if we needed to have a special meeting and have it to the 24th, I would prefer that than having to chime in for something on Tuesday, because Tuesday is usually the prep day before we go on the Hill on Wednesday.
And if you thought you might be, if you have if 3 of us
going to Panama City anymore,
remote or whatever, it might be
ugly.
Well, let's just, Sherry, let's pin that as a possibility of looking to either move that. What I'm most concerned about is planning items that hit in February. We have to wait at least 14 days. And if we just cancel the March meeting, that might push them 3 or 4 weeks later into April.
Yeah, we do not
And
want
so
to do that.
I'm hesitant to cancel the meeting, but, I'm also hesitant to move it willy-nilly if we don't need to. So Sherry, let's put that on the list to think about, and we can circle back.
Maybe February when we have a more have a better idea what the agenda looks like.
Yeah.
We'll talk about tomorrow at staff and
I'm
try
fine
and
moving it
really
a week,
focus
too.
on those 2 meetings.
100%.
And let you know if we need to have another one or just cancel it.
Okay.
Does that stuff require motions to do that, or is it just more kind of?
At the time, we'd make a motion to, we put it on the agenda, on the consent agenda, and we move the meeting and reset that and notice it up. So that's why we have to know a couple weeks in advance before we do that. Usually we do it that way.
Yeah. I don't think we've yet to have a special session. No, we did.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for talking about that. I think it's worth at least considering.